All right, what's going on, guys? So, I'm going to get right into it. Hopefully, some more people hop in. I am looking at the comments. Is the American dream dead? Oh, man, I have so much to say about this. It's going to be something else. Um, Let me talk about me first. Obviously, it might be weird on YouTube or on Facebook that I'm saying I'm Ryan.Fagan. I'm a real estate investor. I am a real estate broker as well. I help people buy and sell homes. I'm a realtor. All these terms are interchangeable. And oh man, I have seen a lot of crazy things. I've been an advocate for most of the people that I work with have been first time home buyers, people who, are getting their lives together, people who are starting out in life. I am 34 years old. I'm a millennial. And so I share a lot of experiences with a lot of these people. My life has been a bit different because of some of the choices I've made, but I really have a identification with my peer group, and I look at everyone I graduated high school with within a year or two, and I look at those things, and I just really empathize with them, and so the biggest driver for wealth in this country and in most countries is real estate, right? So if you own a property, you have significantly more wealth than someone who doesn't. Um, I think a really good example of that is the black and white disparity with wealth in general. And I think it's about $100,000. And I think most of that comes from minorities or black people owning less real estate than their counterparts, and there's a whole bunch of reasons why. That's not what we're talking about today, but I just want to push the point home that owning real estate, um, first of all, it's your biggest, most valuable asset, and usually it separates people. So real estate owners are over here, non-real estate owners are over here, and basically, if you don't own real estate, you're probably falling behind. Now, this doesn't apply to everybody. If you're an entrepreneur, you're a really good investor, blah, 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 all that type of stuff, you know, then that's something else to talk about. And that's another topic I'll probably address today is, you know, a lot of Mark Cuban, Gary Vee, DJ Vlad, all these people really aren't a fan of real estate. Even Grant Cardone, who's a real estate investor, says that your home that you live in is a scam, blah, 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 all that type of stuff. I disagree, but I understand where they're coming from. But a little bit about my background, again, for some of the YouTube people and maybe some of the Facebook people who are watching live, is that, I am a real estate investor. I own 10 rental properties, so I'm not really big. I flipped, five, six properties in the last couple of years. So I'm not some guru. I don't know everything, but I do have some experience as an investor with rental properties and with flips, as well as working with clients. So I've worked with buyers, I work with sellers as a real estate agent or a realtor. So I've also worked in property management. I've also worked with a commercial appraisal firm. And so I know quite a bit about the industry. I have a lot of experience. And, and I want to begin this kind of with the fact that the situation that I think is really crappy for a lot of you guys benefits me personally. So this is not some kind of like, oh, my real estate business isn't doing so good, blah, 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 whatever. I'm not working with as many clients. Because if you're on Facebook, you've probably seen my post that I was talking about that. I think that you guys are getting screwed, and while you're getting screwed, my wealth is increasing. I own multiple properties, me and my business partner, Otis, and my net worth over the last 2 years with the COVID real estate market has gone up a lot. But I don't think what's happening is good for the everyday man and woman. I don't think it's good for the family. I don't think it's good for the average American. I don't know what's going on overseas, but I don't think it's good for you guys. And, someone that cares about the society that I live in, I care about how well people are doing. I always say, we don't want a society where there's haves and have-nots because it's not good for anybody. If you live in a society where you're either rich or poor, if you're rich, you look like food. People want to take your stuff because it seems like a not fair game that people are playing in. And if you're poor, it's really tough. So I really, 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 really don't think it's a good direction that our country's going in. So I think, ironically, the first thing that I want to talk about is something that was posted today about home prices. So let's pull that up. No, that's not. Okay, here we go. So this was posted this morning. U.S. home prices surge 18.4% in October. Housing prices historically, if you look at the averages over forever, has been about 3 to 5%. Basically a little bit above inflation, like at inflation, and we're always talking about inflation right now. So I'm sure you guys are learning about what that is, but. Now we're seeing prices in the last 2 years, 18.4% increase. U.S. home prices surge again in October as the housing market continues to boom in the wake of last year's coronavirus recession. It's funny because the coronavirus recession lasted like 3 months. I was a realtor at the time. I remember basically in New Jersey, so all my perspective is from New Jersey, the tri-state area, and we were not allowed to show houses for a period of time. So you basically couldn't even sell your house. At the time, I thought everything was crashing. Everyone's losing their jobs. People are filing for unemployment, all that stuff. I was wrong. But basically, you couldn't do any business. You couldn't sell your house. The S&P CoreLogic Case-Shiller 20-City Home Price Index out today climbed 18.4% in October. That is an insane increase in home prices. And I'm going to talk about it a little bit more, but home prices actually aren't the issue. Obviously, a $200,000 house, let me pull this up. Actually, the average home now is like $300,000. If it's up 18%, that means that $300,000 house is now $354,000 in 1 year. So if you bought that house a year ago, it would have increased $54,000. So you'd probably make money off of that. And that's why I love real estate, right? So the appreciation is why I love real estate, why it's important, why families grow their wealth from it. But damn, 18% or $54,000 on an average price house is insane. All cities posted double-digit annual gains. Well, cities are hot, by the way, if you didn't know, like Philadelphia, San Francisco, Texas, all the cities in Texas, Austin, Dallas, blah, blah, blah. New York City, even though they were going down for a minute. The hottest markets were Phoenix, Tampa, Miami, Minneapolis, and Chicago. So I was going to say that there's a narrative of warm weather places doing better, but then they had Minneapolis and Chicago, which is interesting. The housing market has been strong thanks to rock bottom mortgage rates, so interest rates are very low. It's almost free to borrow money. That's why I was always telling people cash is trash. You might as well borrow as much money as possible, take as much debt as possible, because A 3% interest rate is like someone giving you money for free. A limited supply of homes on the market and pent-up demand from consumers locked in last year by the pandemic. Many Americans tired of being cooped up at home during the pandemic are looking to trade up from apartments to homes or bigger houses. So, it's funny because that wasn't something that I had prepared for today. That's just something that popped up. And I think it's ironic because it's exactly what's going on, is that the real estate market is exploding still. And let's talk about how people are getting screwed up. Okay, so home prices are up 18%. That's kind of crazy. That's more than normal, right? But that's not the big problem per se, right? Because home prices do go up. Obviously, like I was saying, they go 3, 4, 5% a year. This is 18%, so that's insane. But what the real problem is that buyers with things like FHA loans, USDA loans, even VA, which I made a video about, like veteran home buyers who are trying to use the VA loan, which is a benefit of being a veteran, they're not able to do it, right? And the VA loan is basically a 0% down loan. And so you could buy a house with almost no money. I mean, you need to get a home inspection, blah, blah, blah. But back in the day, I worked with many clients who bought houses on a VA loan, and maybe they come out of pocket $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. Usually they're not paying even closing costs. They're rolling that into the price because the seller's paying for it. So really they're getting the house for almost nothing. And that greatly helps people's lives. Again, if you own a property in the last year, if you bought the average property, your wealth has increased $54,000. How do you beat that? I mean, that's the average income in America is like 50 something $1,000. So in 1 year, just by owning something, you earn the salary of a person who busts their ass every day. And that's why I love real estate. But as we're going to talk, there's problems. So I was referencing the fact that people are using FHA loans, VA loans, USDA loans to get access to properties, to buy properties with very low down payments. The problem is no one's accepting those offers anymore because the demand is so high. And it's essentially why I've stopped working with most buyers, because the odds of you with your FHA loan winning a bid against a conventional buyer with $50,000 to put down, $80,000 to put down is very low. And I think this has ramifications across the country. I think it has problems for everybody. I think it's bad for society, and we're going to talk about all these issues. But and the funny thing, the ironic thing, I've been pushing homeownership this entire time. I was saying you need to buy a house. If you're renting, that's a horrible decision. You should buy a house, blah, 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 since 2016. The people that listen to me are much more wealthy. Again, if you bought the median priced house, you'd be up 54 grand already. And that's equity. So if you sell the house, you're not going to be able to capitalize, but you'll be up $30,000 in your pocket if you sold the property. So that's a big difference between someone who doesn't own a property. The other problem is rents are going up. I'm about to rent a 2-bedroom property where the mortgage is $1,300 and the rent's going to be about $1,800. So that person that's paying $1,800, it's going to be hard for them to get ahead because they're paying more than what the mortgage would be on that property. But that's a whole nother topic. And let me pull out my notes here. So what is the American dream, right? it sounds corny, cheesy, the American dream, the single family home with the white picket fence, 2 cars, 2.5 kids, leave it to Beaver, that 70s show lifestyle. But and even back then, you used to be able to live off a single income household. So like, the man traditionally, I know you guys will get mad. We got to talk about that. But the man goes to work at 9 o'clock, comes home at 5 o'clock, spends time with the kids, all that stuff, and they're not pressed for money. They're not stressed out. Everything's good. Life is good. You can raise kids. You can really have a family unit. You got one parent staying at home, taking care of everything, being present. That was the lifestyle. That was the American dream, right? You have your own house. You're the king of your castle, the king and queen of your castle. You can raise your kids how you want. You have domain over your area. And this is one of the intangible benefits of owning a property is you could do whatever you want with it. You can, you're invested in the community. You're respected in a different way. I know that sounds kind of crazy if you don't own property, but on one of my early podcasts with Wesley Williams, it might be episode 2 or 3 of the Ryan Got Their Bread podcast, he talks about that. And as minorities too, this is definitely a big thing, is like people look at you differently when you're the owner of things. So that's another intangible benefit. So, they say a man is a king of his domain or his castle of his house. And so it's a really important aspect in the economy and in society and all that, is owning your home. And it lets people raise their kids and just creates a better family unit than what we're seeing today, where everyone, most people are struggling. And, I had a conversation on that Facebook post that I was talking about where the middle class is shrinking, and I totally agree with that. Another issue about owning real estate is obviously the financial benefits. So like, what I always ask people to do is go look at what someone bought. And this is what I learned at their appraisal firm. I kind of knew this intuitively, but when I looked and worked for this appraisal company, I was looking at what someone bought a house for in 1980, or a lot in Philadelphia, like it was in North Philadelphia or whatever, what they paid for a lot. Maybe they paid $40,000. And today, or, years ago, to say 2015 or whatever, that property was worth $500,000-$600,000. So just by owning something, you are increasing your wealth. Remember, land cannot be created, and it can't be destroyed. So, there's only so much land in the world and in the country and in a certain spot. So real estate is a unique asset in that sense that, if you have beachfront property with a great view, there's no other beachfront property at that location with a great view the same way that your property is. And that means a lot. And it doesn't just mean a lot financially. It means a lot intangibly, because that is power, because you own and control and have domain over that area. And I, throughout this thing, I want to kind of stress the intangible benefits, because I'm going to talk a lot about the financial benefits and why you guys are getting screwed if you don't own real estate right now. But there's also intangible benefits that nobody ever talks about, and I think is critically important. So I see, people dropping in and out. So if I'm going back to kind of what I was talking about a little bit, home prices in the last year up 18%. And the year before that, they were up quite a significant amount. So let's look at median home prices, because this is the beginning of, it's everybody, but it's mostly millennials in my age group. So just follow me, a little history lesson. Remember the real estate bubble, right? 2000, like mid 2007, 2008 is really when all the shit hit the fan. The median home price, $257,000. People thought that was crazy, right? Because, let's see, 2005, the home price, 232. 2007, 257. Okay, so let's talk about this. Let's sit here for a second. $257,000 average home price. Let's see what the down payment is. I already had this stuff calculated for you guys. The down payment, if you had an FHA loan for that property, dang, I don't know what I was talking about. So I'm going to go back to where I think I dropped off at. And okay, it looks like it's still working. Basically, what I was saying is 2007, the median home price was $257,000. Today, it's $404,000. That's nuts. And so the down payment difference was $9,000 here in 2007, and it's about $14,000 here today. But the issue is that's on FHA 3.5% down loan. So if you happen to be lucky to get a house at 3.5% down with the FHA loan, which is very not super unrealistic, but it's very difficult right now. You're definitely not going to get your first choice. You will get the house for $14,000, plus you're going to have to pay closing costs, because before you used to be able to get the closing costs paid for. Okay, so that $9,000 was a real $9,000. Now you're going to have to pay $14,000 plus about another $8,000 for closing costs, something like that. So you're going to need $22,000. So the average person went from needing $9,000 to about $22,000 to buying a house today. That's a bit unreasonable. On top of that, they're probably not going to accept your FHA loan. If they do, they're going to want you to waive home inspection. They're going to want you to pay some cash above their appraised value if it appraises higher, and all these things. And you're going to get screwed. And the funny thing is, if you get screwed and buy a house now and do all those things, you're probably going to make out. So I'm not saying that it's the end of the world. I'm just saying it's way worse than it used to be, and the goalpost has moved, right? Because if you bought a house for $9,000 instead of $22,000, there's a big difference there. But if you had bought that house, in 2007, say even 2015, you've increased your wealth. If you bought your house in 2015, you've increased your wealth by $100,000. If you're in the median, that's significant. And that's why I've been an advocate for home ownership and all that stuff, because that's a big deal. Let me pull up my dashboard so I could make sure people can still hear me. Okay. And Brianna, if you want to hop on, you can. I did see you in there for a minute and then you popped out, but probably because I'm messing up. Let's see. Nope. Okay. Boom. Let me get the invite link here just for you guys in case you do want to hop on. Boom. There it is in the chat in Facebook. So that's how you're getting screwed. You went from buying a house for $9,000 to having to pay $22,000 at the minimum. Meanwhile, so here's the problem, right? The people that own homes before you, before the millennials were able to buy houses, they owned a house, right? And the equity increased in their property. So what they did was, when they were selling their house, they could use the equity in that property to buy the new property for a big down payment. So you're like, where are these buyers coming in with $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 down payments? It's because they are selling their house and they have a big down payment to use. And that's why, again, I love real estate. That's why I support, and push buying homes for regular people so much is that you can leverage the equity in your house to the new house. For example, those people who bought in 2015, they have $100,000 in equity. That doesn't include the pay down that they were doing. So every month you pay your mortgage, it's down. So if they paid the mortgage 6-7 years, they probably owe, $50,000 less if they're in the median. So they have $150,000 in equity to play with versus you, if you just graduated college, whatever, you are going to have a hard time being able to compete with that because all you have is your savings. And your savings is not going to be good enough unless you make a ton of money. But again, the average income in this country is about $50,000. So how are you going to compete with someone who has $120,000 in equity in their house versus your $50,000 a year income? Even if you made $100,000, are you saving 50? That would take you 2-3 years to be able to compete with these people. So even in the best situation, the haves, the people who own real estate, are kicking your ass basically. And it's a weird needle to thread, is like owning real estate. For example, I own 10 rental units. I own a 4-plex in Texas. I own a duplex in Texas, and I own basically 4 single-family homes. So all of those things have been increasing over this time and being paid down. It's going to be hard to compete with that if I want to buy a property because I have all this equity I can tap into to buy the property. Even if I don't have cash or income, I can refinance those properties and put them as down payments. So somebody who was just starting out, graduated college again, what chance do they have? And it's cool that, the whole point of me pushing people to own their properties is to gain wealth and money and stuff like that. But it's gotten so out of control that, the prices have gone up. Again, that's not the biggest issue. It's the fact that people aren't taking FHA loans, USDA, VA loans, low down payment programs. They're not accepting them. So you can't even, it's hard to touch something. And, the reason why I was hesitant to do this topic is because I don't have a good solution for this. And in the Facebook thread, we've been talking about that. I'm not really sure what people are to do. And I don't want to bring up problems with no solutions, because before I was the king of, as soon as the New Jersey Home Seeker program came out, which was a program where they gave you a $10,000 second lien, but it was forgivable. So you didn't have to pay it back if you lived in the house for, I think it was 5 years. And and that program still exists. I was killing them with that. I was educating people about it. I said, use this program. You can buy the house. When we talk about $9,000 out of your pocket, theoretically, you could buy the house with $0 out of your pocket. You'd spend some money, though, realistically. I'm not trying to be that guy saying you could buy a house with $0, but very little money. And that was a common thing I was doing with first-time buyers. They were getting into these properties with no money, essentially. And again, that's why I love real estate. Somebody with a good credit score and just regular income could secure, say, a $200,000 property, reasonable at the time. And that property was going to increase in value 3 to 5%. And they were going to pay the mortgage down. And when they wanted to upgrade their house, they'd be able to do that. Ironically, if they had done that 2 years or more ago, they are in a beautiful situation without getting any raises at their job, anything like that. Their equity is, again, I keep talking about this, their equity is they're probably sitting on 100,000. How are you going to be, so had they taken my advice at the time, they'd be way up. as long as they didn't mess it up, which that's going to be in my next video. How do you F up your real estate? How do you mess up your investments and stuff like that? And mostly it has to do with relationships, divorce, and stuff like that. So, but that's going to be another topic. I'm going to do another live about that. So, again, if you owned real estate before the COVID market, you're doing good. What are my young people to do? So let's talk about this. My peer group, millennials, right? I'm 34. I'm cap season. I'm a Capricorn. I'm about to be 34 on January 13th. We're the best sign, by the way. The wise goat. Anyway, I graduated high school in 2006. My path was different. I joined the military. I spent 4 years in the Army, blah, 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 whole different thing. But most of my peers were graduating college right at the financial crisis, right? So there were no jobs or whatever. Everybody was underemployed. And part of that is that some people had stupid degrees and things like that. Everybody got pushed to go to college. But even if you had a good degree and a good job or a marketable education, there were no jobs. So what did you do? People worked at Costco. People worked at Walmart, underemployed. The news made fun of them. They live in their mom's basement. How the heck do you get ahead when, the job market sucks? You have no income. You have student loan debt. So this is the thing I rallied against previously, is that student loan debt was stopping my peers from buying homes. And I said, one day as a realtor, my personal network, I was saying, I would make a ton of money as a realtor if millennials didn't get screwed, because they had student loan debt, and man, people would reach out to me and try to get qualified for houses, and they couldn't because of student loan debt. Well, now that's not even the biggest problem. So what, as we got older as millennials, our income increased. Kevin said, living in a basement not sounding too bad right now. And that's funny, is maybe part of my advice for people is to just stack your bread and see what happens. But I have a whole thesis about the real estate market. I don't think there's going to be a crash, and I'll talk about why a little bit later. But as I was saying, millennials are getting screwed. They're underemployed. They are not making a lot of money. But years later, in our 30s, we finally got our promotions. We paid down student loans. People got married. They had dual incomes, things like that. Dual income is a big one. Dual income, I know it's taboo today to talk about, but relationships, men and women, or whatever the heck the relationship is, when you all get together, your buying power increases. So that's a way that you can own real estate. But I digress. Most of us have gotten better incomes and have finally qualified to buy houses. So my real estate business, working with clients as a realtor, increased. And I was noticing it quite significantly that a lot of my peers that I knew from high school and, just my age bracket, they were all buying houses. And I loved it because I was getting them their first house, USDA, New Jersey Home Seeker program. People were closing on houses, $3,000 out of pocket. Max out of pocket, $9,000, but I was like $3,000 to $5,000. People was securing $170,000 to $230,000 houses with very low money. Boom, knocking them out. And I loved it. Like, that's where, me personally, I don't have to do this exactly. So I love getting people their first house, because I know that years later, if they're raising their kids there, whatever, it's going to be a better situation. even if they just bought the house and ended up selling it 3 to 5 years later, they're going to make money. And I like that. I like other people making money and experiencing that, especially for doing nothing except for owning something. So finally, 10 years later, after the economic crash and being underemployed, millennials were finally starting to buy houses. Then COVID comes out. Oh, I shouldn't even say that word because you get shadow banned if you say anything wrong about that. But anyway, COVID comes out, and I think the market's going to crash. I think it's an opportunity. I'm like, oh, let me sell my stocks. Let me get in cash real quick because I was saying cash is trash. You should, invest in stocks, invest in crypto, buy real estate. Whatever cash you have laying around, it's a waste of money. You should invest. That's what I was saying. When COVID first started, I said, oh, I need to get all my cash. I sold my stocks. I sold everything. Because I was ready to buy everything first on sale, because when a recession happens, same thing in 2007, I did so good in stocks because I bought a whole bunch of stocks, all kinds of cyclical, things about construction, like all the stocks that would really benefit from a booming economy over time. I bought the banks, which had crashed. I bought all that stuff. And boy, did I make a lot of money because of that. And same thing in real estate. If you bought houses during from 2008 to 2014, you did very well. So I said, oh, shoot, this COVID market, is an opportunity. The funny thing is when things crash, it's an opportunity for people with less money because money gets cheap, interest rates get lower, so you can borrow money, which is the biggest way to come up. Right? Because, again, real estate, you can borrow the most money at the lowest interest rate. So that is the best come up that you can do. And maybe that's another conversation we should have about financing interest rates and why low interest rates are great for people with not a lot of money, especially in real estate where you can buy a property or you can secure an asset worth a lot of money for not having a lot. And that's most of my people. I don't know no rich people. I know regular people. So I root for the regular people. And I think the regular person is the backbone of the whole country. I think most of the people that you interact with on a day-to-day basis is a regular person. So if their life is better, your life is better, right? Because I always feel like you go to Walmart, that job sucks, man. And so they're beaten down by life and they're rude and not all the time. I'm not shitting on Walmart people, but like when you go somewhere and people hate their job, you feel that energy and it gets on you. And I feel like if we live in a world where everybody is doing better, I think we'll do, like, even if you're better off, we all do better together. In a way. Now, it's not saying you just give free stuff away, but I think if everybody is living a decent life, at least a baseline level, the world is better. So I say all that to say, we, again, millennials finally got money, finally able to buy houses. COVID happens. Things start crashing. And I was totally wrong. And this is why I don't like predictions. I don't like all these people. A lot of YouTubers, all these people are doing all this doomsaying, saying, oh, things are going to crash. Oh, things are going to pop. It's a bubble. It's a crash. It's a bubble. I think that's so bullshit, and I hate it. And that's why I haven't been making content, because I don't know what to think about this. And I was wrong initially. So my initial thought was everything's going to crash. People unemployed. I know specifically, I was working with 2 or 3 single mothers who had, they had kids, and they were trying to do the right thing. They were trying to do 203K loans. Again, I was an expert at that. They were trying to get duplexes, multifamily properties, and they all got laid off because they had to watch their kids, or they just got laid off because of COVID. But like the kids was another big factor, and that really like bothered me because They were on the, like, it's so crazy to think about this actually. Some of the clients I was working with, if they only, like, COVID stopped everything. Like, I had people under contract, ready to close on great deals. And COVID happened and they lost their job and they couldn't close on a property. And it was like a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks away. It happened to like 3 people. And it actually was like 3 single women with kids who were like doing some boss shit where they were going to do a lot better. They were getting multifamily properties. One was doing a multifamily property with a rehab. Just really good stuff. And they weren't able to do it. They weren't able to close. And I hated that for them, because and this is like where the disparity is coming from. When I showed you guys the numbers, the average home price right now, the median home price is $400,000. 2 years ago, let me look it up again. 2 years ago, early 2020, let's look, Q1 2020, the average home price was $330,000. So from basically in 2 years, home prices went up $80,000. So anybody that was going to buy a house right in the beginning of COVID and was not able to, they missed out on $80,000 of equity. I hate that. And I had clients in that situation. I hate it so much. And that's what I mean, the difference between the haves and the have-nots. And I think the disparity is too far because home ownership was supposed to be reasonable. I don't think it's reasonable home prices go up $80,000 in 2 years when wages have not gone up quite nearly as much. So let's bring that up. Hopefully I don't lose my sound. Can you guys still hear me? Yes, you can. Okay. This is it. For most U.S. workers, real wages have barely budged in decades. So again, my millennials, this is a bigger problem for you guys or for us. I'm part of that. Let's just look at the chart here. Constant 2018 dollars. Basically what they're doing is adjusting for inflation. $20 an hour. That's what people are making. And so the price of college, 1,200% since 1980. And then if you subtract inflation, which was 236%, okay? So you're paying way more for college. That's the student loan debt I was talking about. Your wages didn't go up. Inflation that we're talking about now, way up. Chicken wings cost way more. Getting a sandwich costs way more. Whatever. Everything costs more. The house up $80,000 from what it was before. So like it's like the biggest triple whammy of all time, or quadruple whammy of all time. And I hate to say this. I was pushing ownership of real estate so hard the last couple years. If you notice, if you're on my Facebook, or YouTube, I haven't posted anything. Why? Because I have nothing to say. I'm rooting for the regular person. I don't know nothing about the super rich people. I don't know what they do. I'm a small investor. I'm doing well because of this market. But I'm looking at all my peers, and I hate what's happening. And nobody's talking about the single mother situation, which I think is a really big deal. Like, single moms had it the worst. Their unemployment was like, what was like 10 times worse than everybody else because they had to stay home for remote school. Nobody talks about that. And that's why I haven't been saying anything, because what's the solution? And I hate this. I hate the solution or the thing to say. Build your credit, save more money. I mean, that's lazy. Like, that's the thing that you have to do. You have to build your credit, save more money, right? But what else can we do to come up in the world? Because if you're saving your money and I'm saving my money as a real estate owner of multiple properties, you're never going to catch up. Because if my wealth is increasing 18% times X amount of properties that I own, and your wages aren't increasing, and you don't own anything, how the heck are you going to do anything? Like, how are you going to compete with that? Because I could come buy that property and I could overpay for it, and you can't. And that denies you the opportunity. And I don't think that's good. And I'm not trying to stunt. I'm literally saying I don't think that's good. I think that's bad for you guys. And I want to live in a world where everybody's got a fair shot. I've done a lot of sacrifices. I've saved a lot of money. I didn't go out. I didn't do these things. So, like, yeah, I did that. But I think if somebody wants to have again, the American dream, owning your own property, being able to raise your kids, not being super stressed out about what you're going to pay, being invested in your community, being able to do what you want with your property, being, the king of your own domain, king and queen of your own domain. I think that's the world that I want to live in. I'm not saying you have to be an investor, an entrepreneur, a boss, whatever. Like, you could work a regular job. You should be able to own your own house. You should be able to pass that on to your kids. And again, this is why real estate ownership over time, let me flesh it out for you guys. If you own a property, say you only buy one property your whole life and you stay there and you live there, blah, 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 you never upgrade. You pay that property off, the value of it has gone up, because again, the last 2 years the properties are up, 30%. 1 year it's 18%. So now take that over 30 years. I'm not saying it's going to go up, that much, but if you bought the house $300,000, house might be worth $700,000, might be worth $600,000, whatever. You could pass that on to your kids. You could refinance. You could do all these things with the equity of that property to set your family up, or to start a business, or to do whatever the heck you want to do. And if your family keeps that property in their name, in the family, they can always leverage that property. So you don't have to be some real estate expert. You don't have to be an investor. You don't have to be anything. You just own your own family home, and you're going to be better off than if you didn't. And that's why I'm so concerned for you guys that don't own real estate. And I know that sounds like a sales pitch, blah, 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 whatever. I'm not trying to push people to buy houses right now. I've been telling people don't rush, because I don't know what's going to happen with house prices. So let's talk about that. My thesis is, because of COVID and really the great resignation and remote work is the biggest deal, right? So mad people quit their jobs. Many more say they will quit their job if they can't work from home. I think work from home is going to be permanent. So even without the pandemic and all this stuff, people are going to want to work from home, because for businesses, they need less space. They need less office space, and their productivity is relatively the same. So why would we pay for more real estate when we don't need it, when people can work from home? People prefer to work from home, most people. So if more people are working at home, people noticed an issue. The kids are remote schooling. they're being loud in the living room or wherever the heck they are, there's not enough space for them. Then you're staying home, so you need a home office. And people realize, dang, my house is even more important because I'm spending more time in my house. I am, basically I'm here more often, and my house is more important than it was. So simple supply and demand. That means people demand their house or housing or residential real estate space at a higher level than they did before. And that makes sense, right? Because if you need a home office, if you're a couple, you might need two offices because you're both working from home. And maybe for some reason your kids are at home for some reason, and they're remote. They need a space. They need a quiet space to be at. That's a lot more real estate that you need than you needed previously when you just went to work. And so when people say there's going to be a real estate crash, I don't think so anymore, because the demand or the value of a house is greater than it was. Even me, for example, this COVID stuff's going on. I'm a single guy, but I was like, you know what? If they shut down, blah, 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 I want to have an entertaining space. I want to have a nice backyard. I want to be able to have people over. I want to be able to do whatever I want to do at my house. So I valued that above, basically I valued having space more. Like, for example, this house that I bought, I paid a lot more than what most of the houses were going for. Now I use a VA loan. And, okay, so this is a good example. Let's talk about that. My house, this house right here, all this gray, blah, 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 all the stuff you see right now. I knew the seller. He was buying a different house. He already bought the house. He was rehabbing it. He needed to sell his house. I said, look, man, I'll pay whatever the heck the house appraises for. Straight up. I said, if it appraises for whatever, 300,000, whatever, I'll pay for it. Because I was in the real estate market. I was putting offers on houses just like you guys. I was using a VA loan because I didn't want to pay money to buy the house, because I was going to rent out the house that I currently live in. That's how you upgrade. So I don't believe in selling a property. I think you should just keep renting them out, cash flow, blah, 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 whatever. That's a whole nother story. But I wanted to use my VA loan, and I was trying to upgrade my house, get a single family. I lived in a townhouse, 2-bedroom townhouse. Good for me, but I want to have baller parties in the backyard. I'm doing a YouTube series about that. If you follow me on Instagram, you've probably seen what I've been doing. I put probably 3 offers way above list price with my VA loan. None of them got accepted. I even knew the mayor of my town was selling his house, and I knew him, and I told him, yo, I will buy your house. I still couldn't buy it. He knew my money was good. He still didn't go with the VA loan, which the VA loan, 0% down. No money out of your pocket. You had to pay closing costs. So again, closing costs might be $8,000 on the type of house I'm talking about. So even me, real estate agent, house flipper, have money, all that, was getting my bid rejected on every property I offered on. Every property, couldn't get nothing. So I basically went to the seller of this house, who I knew he didn't have it on the market. I said, look, how much do you want for the house? He said $300,000. That seemed like a lot. I said, look, I'll give you $300,000 if the house appraises for. I'll pay what it appraises for. So if it doesn't appraise, we're gonna drop the price to whatever it appraises for. House appraised for $300,000. Mind you, I'm an expert in this neighborhood. I've flipped 2 houses in this neighborhood, and I've sold as a listing agent in another house. So I've sold 3 properties, one identical to this house, basically. that house 2 years ago, basically this house 2 years ago would have sold for $240,000 to $260,000. I paid $300,000. I paid $300,000. That's crazy, right? But that's why owning property and not owning property, there's a giant disparity. Because I know that even if I overpay in the short term for this house, this thing 10 years from now will be worth more. So, unless I'm thinking about selling it soon, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. And I can rent it out. And rent, so let's talk about rent. So, in the same story, I live in a 2-bedroom townhouse across town. So, my mortgage for that property that I used to live at is $1,300. Okay? Paid I'll give y'all all the real numbers here. So, who's doing this? Give you the real numbers. $176,000 is what I paid for that house. 2-bedroom, 1.5 bath, 2-bedroom townhome, no HOA. The rent right now is $1,800. I think it's crazy. I'm going to literally put this house on the market in the next 30 days for $1,800. I'm going to net between, it's not really net because you have repairs, blah, blah, blah. But between the mortgage and the rent, it's $500 a month. So the family who wasn't able to buy a house, either their credit, they don't have enough down payment, or their work history is not good enough, they're going to pay $500 more than it costs to buy the house 5 years ago. So I bought the house 5 years ago. How is that person supposed to live and get ahead? They're paying $1,800 for a 2-bedroom house. How the heck are they going to do that? Okay, Brianna, who is a real estate agent in our area, she says, I don't foresee the bubble bursting. Yes, people are paying $30,000 plus over asking, but that has now become a comp. Ooh, that's a good talk right there. America is short over 5 million homes of inventory. I'm curious where that information came from, but I agree. Homeowners who are in fear of foreclosure have enough equity in their homes where they can just sell the home. This is just in my opinion. Nobody has all the answers. So I agree. And this is what I was talking about. When you own property, even if you buy it inefficiently, meaning you bought it at the top price, you overpaid, like my house, I feel like I overpaid. Even if you do all that, if you're getting foreclosed, the value of your house is probably up. You up, dog. You're going to make money. So the disparity between the haves and the have-nots in real estate is getting bad. And I hate this, right? Because I'm not the person to sit here and just say shit's messed up. Oh, you're screwed, blah, blah, blah. I don't think you're screwed. I think you're going to have to, you're going to have to do what you got to do to be able to own a property. I don't think if you buy a property, and I've done it myself. I just talked about it. I bought a house way above what I think the normal prices have been going for. I did it myself. So I put my money where my mouth is. I'm not capping. I'm not just saying whatever. This is something that I really believe. You're going to be up if you can figure out a way to own property. Now, how do we do that? Let's talk about it. And I have not prepared for this answer. And I would love to, on my first episode of the podcast, really talk about this with some other real estate professionals, because I'm only seeing my little window into the world, and I'm pretty jaded right now. But one thing, there's two things really is I still think the rehab loan, so FHA 203K, or the home ready home style or the conventional versions of the rehab loan are the best. And here is so what is a rehab loan? A rehab loan is a traditional mortgage, so FHA, it's FHA, same qualification. But what they do is they will give you the money to fix the property up, and buy the property. Now, there's a whole bunch of rules and blah, blah, blah that goes along with it. But you see that crappy house that's falling down? You can do a rehab loan. Well, I'm going to call it a FHA 203K. There's other types of those loans, but for this everything, I'm going to call it a 203K loan. You could do that, because most people buying houses are looking for houses that are ready to move in. They're not willing to deal with 6 months of rehab, blah, blah, blah. And most agents, mortgage loan officers, and everybody really kind of discourages people from doing this because it's more work and they don't get paid more. They actually get paid less because as a real estate agent, if you buy a $120,000 property and then you get $80,000 to fix it up, you're getting a loan for $200,000 minus the down payment. But I'm getting the commission on the $120,000 property. So I actually get paid less, and it's more work, and there's a lot more to it. But I love doing those because that sets people off the best. Less people are looking for those houses to buy. The issue is, if the property is too tore up, investors are going to be all on it and they're offering cash, and you are going to probably not win because no one wants to take this complicated ass rehab loan if they don't have to, if they have other offers. The window, and again, this is rare. Like this is a tough thing. Beggars can't be choosers either. You can't be bougie trying to buy a house right now. You just got to get in. If you don't have the money, you're going to have to do some stuff outside the box. You're going to have to do whatever you have to do, but I think it's worth it to do that. And we've already talked about the benefits. So if the house is too messed up, flippers like me are going to want to buy it, and we're buying cash. So you're not going to compete with that. If the house doesn't need enough work, someone's going to buy that house and buy it as a turnkey, and they'll use a conventional loan and beat you out. But there is a sliver in the middle where the house needs enough work where the regular retail buyer, someone who's going to move in the property, doesn't really want to touch it. And the investor says, I probably can't make that much money off this property. That's where, and then still, you're still going to compete with the investors who just want to like buy it and paint it and do some basic stuff. You're still going to compete with them. And here's the crappy thing. You're going to pay more money than them. You're going to have to pay quite a bit more than the investor. But you might be able to win that property because the investor's not going to keep outbidding or bidding up the property because the margin's so small. The benefit of that, if it's like a mid-level, is a 203K loan is a lot cheaper if it's under $30,000 rehab budget because that's a streamline 203K loan. It's called a streamline. If you go over a $30,000 repair budget, it costs a lot more. You have to get a HUD consultant and things like that. So that middle sliver, if you guys are really adamant about buying a house, don't look at the top of your price range. You're not going to get it. You're going to get outbid because whatever that is, people are going to pay more. They're going to bring cash to the table. They're going to bring cash above appraised value, et cetera, et cetera. Find that crappy house in a neighborhood you like. Any house in the neighborhood you like, buy that. FHA 203K rehab loan. If you have good credit and a bigger down payment, maybe you go, it's called Home Ready Home Style, which is a conventional style loan. And that'll work as well. And maybe the terms are a little bit better, but nothing's wrong with FHA 203K. You can buy a house. Now, again, inventory is low, but I think a lot of you guys are looking for a problem with first-time home buyers is they're being too idealistic. They want all the things, and then they say that house ain't worth it because blah, blah, blah. Don't do that. Again, I showed you the median home price charts. Even if you buy at the top of the market right now, just like the people in 2007, you'd be up in 5 years. So don't worry about all these people telling you it's going to crash. If you're able to do it and you're adamant about doing it and you believe what I'm talking about as far as owning real estate, the benefits of it, go for it. And think it's outside the box. And so if you're looking for an FHA 203K loan, you need an agent who understands it. You need a mortgage loan officer who understands it. Because if you're talking to any random person or any random loan officer, mortgage company, or realtor that doesn't have experience with it, they're going to discourage you because they don't know about it. And I'm not doing a sales pitch here. Like, again, I only do business that I think is good business with people. I've turned down a lot of situations recently because of that. So, like, this is my best advice. Work with an agent who has closed multiple rehab loans. If they haven't done that, it's not going to, they're not going to help you properly. You're going to need contractors. You're going to need a lot of people. But if, you don't want to get left behind, it's really important. I think the other solution to, getting left behind economically and the real estate market is if you don't have enough money to buy a property, you got to get into stocks and cryptocurrency. And look, the only cryptos that I buy, Bitcoin, Ethereum. Okay, I don't believe in none of that other stuff. Don't use your life savings on none of that. But some percentage of your money needs to be in those things. Stocks especially. I mean, if you look at a stock chart, dang, I wish I could bring it up, but I don't want to show all my account numbers or whatever. But the same thing that's happened in the housing market has happened even crazier with stocks. So if you had been owning stocks, your wealth could still increase even though you didn't own real estate. And that's the next best thing that you can do. Real estate is more stable, more kind of, I don't want to say guaranteed. It's not guaranteed. Neighborhoods could go down, blah, 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 whatever. But, if you have any reasonable sense, that's probably not going to happen. And your house, again, you can rent it out even if the value of the house goes down. So it's a bit more tangible. It's a bit more stable. It's a little bit easier to do it. Getting into stocks, you got to learn a lot of stuff, blah, blah, blah. But I think that's probably the thing to do right now is to learn about stocks, invest, even if it's an index fund or something like that. That's the way to go. If you say you have $5,000, you used to be able to buy a house with that. You can't right now. I mean, let me say that's wrong. You may be able to, especially depending on where you are, but it's much more difficult than it was, and you're going to have to make a lot of compromises and sacrifices to be able to do that. So, stocks. And when I say stocks, again, I'm a very conservative investor. People, it's cool to put $100, $200, like a small amount of money in, Dogecoin and Shiba Inu or whatever. That's just gambling. But if you're putting real money up, whatever real money is to you, you can never go wrong with stuff like Amazon, like blue chip stocks. And I'm not trying to have a stock class, but that's the way to go. you know, reliable stuff. Amazon's taking over the world. You've seen them build warehouses all over. People shopping at Amazon more and more and more and more. Participate in that. You know, when they make more money, you make more money. And I think that's the way to go. And hopefully your money can go up, you know, from that. And then you'll be able to buy your home and have all the benefits of owning a home. I think that's the way to go. Again, I'm going to do Ryan Got the Bread podcast. I'm going to try to bring on all my favorite real estate professionals and have a real big conversation about that. Because I know some agents. I think Brianna's one of them. She commented here, Brianna Mead. I see her still closing stuff with buyers. So I don't know what those buyers got going on. You know, I have no clue, but they probably, not all of them are putting a ton of money down. So it's happening for some people. You got to stay persistent. But, you know, I'm really concerned about the American dream and home ownership. There's a ton of benefits that go beyond the financial. Although financial goes into your regular life as well, you know. But having an investment in your community, being an owner, you get respected more. If the police pull you over, like all that stuff, like everything. If you own your property, you're going to be more respected and taken more seriously. And is that right? I don't know. Probably not, but that's how it goes. Financially, again, if you bought a house 3 years ago, if you bought a $300,000, $250,000 house, might be worth $400,000 median today. That's crazy. Jordan Joshua, you seem to have pretty good content. I appreciate you, man. I'm out here struggle streaming. I have a big passion for this issue. It's, you know, let's be real. When I started as an agent, my whole thing was educating first-time home buyers. And that's like an easy thing to do for realtors because at least you know more than the buyer, right? If you don't have a lot of experience, at least you have your real estate education. You know more than your buyer. So it's like an easy thing for people to start with. I've been in the game, 7-8 years as an agent. And again, you know, I am full-time, but I'm also a full-time investor. And I've never gotten away from it. I've always worked with first-time home buyers. It's my thing. It really is my thing. I care about, I don't know, like I just envision, like it's so weird. Like I envision, you know, when I have a young family buying a house, you know, they got young kids or whatever. When they're excited, they're picking out, you know, this is my room, that's my room. No, I'm getting a bigger room. Oh, I want the room with the bathroom. I'm not a super sentimental guy, right? If you guys know me, I'm really not like that. But I feel like I'm making a difference, especially with those people. I've dealt with so many people who didn't think they could even buy a house, and they saw a Facebook post. They saw something I wrote on YouTube that made it seem obtainable to them. Like, they wouldn't have even thought that they could do this thing without seeing something that I wrote. And that means a lot to me. It sounds so sappy, but it means a lot. Because I think that makes a difference. If you help a family raise their kids in a better environment, if you just provide them more stability, or it's not me providing it, it's their family who purchased the property, did all the things they had to do, but I'm helping them. And I help them realize what they could do. I'm negotiating for them. I'm telling them, hey, you know, maybe we can't negotiate getting this water heater replaced, but just keep in mind, water heaters last about 8 to 12 years. Budget $1,200 for that over the next 5 years because it's going to go bad maybe in the 5 years. that means like that means something to me. I feel like that's practical way of changing the world in a small way. Moreover, those people that I've worked with 3, 4, 5 years ago, sometimes I check in on the property value. I'm like, dang, they're like $50,000 richer. I love that. You know, like I really do. Like I don't know how to describe it. I'm like it's their doing that happened, but I was a small part of helping them get there. And I think that's why I'm so negative, depressed, crushed, been quiet, not posted content. Is because I think it's so much harder / it's not impossible. But man, is it way more difficult to do. And I don't have a good solution for them right now. You know, I've had a couple of people reach out to me today about it. And so here's a story, right? I was sitting in Iraq, 2007, sweating, hot as hell, sitting there in Iraq. I always knew I wanted to do real estate. Somehow, you know, and this is an early podcast, again, where I kind of talk about this, but Ryan Got the Bread podcast, if you're looking on Spotify or whatever. I remember, you know, because my dad was kind of into it. He never really did it, but he talked about it. I remember listening. And I was like, I don't want to work forever. You know, working for other people sucks. I don't like listening to people. And getting money to rent out a property, basically doing nothing, is awesome. So that was always in my head. So fast forward, I joined the military. I ended up getting deployed to Iraq from Germany. I was a communications person, so we set up the internet, phones for joint service sites or Iraqi police stations. But I had access to the internet, so I would sit on the big one was biggerpockets.org. It was a real estate investor forum, and I would read because there's nothing to do in Iraq. Nothing to do. So you go to the gym twice a day, you eat, and you go on the internet and read, you know, and watch shows if that's your thing. But I read. And I said, man, I'm going to buy real estate as soon as I get out. I'm qualified. Like, I have a government job, military. I got income. Wow, they count the leases for your income when you're buying a multifamily property. So if you didn't know that, if you're buying a 4-unit property and it has leases on it, they add that to your income when they calculate your debt to income ratio. So bam, you get, you know, it's really not hard to do. So when I got back from Iraq, I got sent to my new duty station, Fort Hood. First thing I did was contact a realtor and said, I want to buy an investment property, multifamily. I didn't know nothing about real estate. I read a ton of stuff, but I still don't know what the heck I'm talking about. Thank God she was an awesome real estate agent with integrity. This is 2008. Everything was crashing, so it was kind of easy to buy stuff. I did what's called a short sale. She showed me this 4-unit property, the first property I looked at. First property. I went in and there was renters in there. It was a whole mess to look at the property because it's hard to show properties that are rented because people are living there, blah, blah, blah. She got me in looking at the property. Was built like it was 2 years old or something like that. I said, oh man, this is awesome. I calculated what the rent was and what the mortgage was. I didn't know nothing about none of the other costs, nothing. I said, wow, this makes more money than what the mortgage is, so it must be a good deal. I signed a contract that day. First property I looked at. Sound crazy. But I don't play around. That's how I do stuff. I bought a duplex recently, last summer. Never even been there. But anyway, she called a mortgage company and I talked to them and they declined me. And they did it in the most dismissing way possible. They said, oh, your debt to income ratio doesn't work, blah, blah, blah. I said, what the heck are you talking about? Can you explain it to me? Click. Like, they didn't talk to me. They didn't explain nothing. What the heck is debt to income ratio? I don't know what the heck that means. They were like, it's 50-something%. I have no clue what the heck they're talking about. My agent called a different mortgage company for me, told them all my stuff. At first, she was trying to decline me, and she said, whoa. Add in the leases for this property, and it will qualify for debt-to-income ratio. And it did. So I almost thought I wasn't able to buy a property. The only reason I was able to do it is because by chance, by luck, the real estate agent that I was working with cared and knew what she was talking about beyond her job, because real estate agents don't always know mortgages. They don't know all the mortgage rules. I do, because I worked as a mortgage loan officer and a million other fields in real estate. But not every agent knows that. So I could have never owned that property. And it was the best property I ever bought. That property cash flowed a lot. I made $800 a month from that property, and I didn't pay any rent. All because the people around me who didn't know me, weren't family, nothing. They were just good professionals. Not only that, but that real estate agent who showed me that property and did all that for me spent maybe 3 hours explaining the sales contract to me. 3 hours. It must have been 3 hours. It was late at night when she got done explaining it, because I had so many questions. Again, she could have just told me to sign it. I wouldn't know. I would have been like, okay, I'll buy a house. Let me sign it. She explained every single thing enthusiastically the whole time. Learned so much about real estate. The reason why I'm telling this story is because that set an example for me. And I realized that if I don't take the time and invest, because it's not profitable. Helping first-time homebuyers is not super profitable. But if I don't take the time to do that, then what impact am I making? And I find the most joy out of helping first-time homebuyers. That's what I like to do. I think it matters. And so that whole long story I'm just telling because be careful, because you might talk to somebody and they tell you, you can't buy a house. Even today, I am telling you the negative side. But if you talk to me, I'm going to try to find you a way. And so I'm using this as an example. If you talk to another agent or a loan officer, listen to what they have to say, because they know what they're talking about. But if they don't know all the tools and all the factors, maybe there's a way. And so don't give up. Don't surrender, because homeownership is important. it's important beyond you, like we were talking about generational wealth, legacy. One property can launch your whole family. It really can. If you're able to pass it down to your kids or leverage the equity to start a business or pay for your kids' college, which college is a whole thing to talk about. If it could do any of that stuff, it's important and worth spending a lot of time trying to figure out. So I think that's what I got to say. I don't see any comments here, any new comments. So that's pretty much all I got, guys. Hopefully, I'm still trying to figure out what my release schedule is for these lives. Struggling with topics sometimes. I need to be passionate about it. Look, we're at an hour 35. The YouTube version will be shorter because I had that audio outage. But if you have topics, if you have comments about this, if you have questions, you need help, reach out. There's no stupid questions. Again, I didn't know what debt to income ratio was, so don't feel bad to ask questions. The real estate stuff is not common sense, and I know this was kind of a negative, but keep your head up, stay positive, work on your credit, save money, look for those properties that nobody else wants. The American dream is on life support. I don't think it's dead, and I don't think it's the wrong dream. I think home ownership is so important. So that's all I got, guys. I'm going to sign off. Hopefully this was good. We'll see. Leave your comments, questions again. But that's all I got. See you.